Chapter 10, verse 9. On the morrow, as they went on their journey, and drew nigh unto the city, Peter went up upon the housetop to pray about the sixth hour. And he became very hungry, and would have eaten. But while they made ready, he fell into a trance, and saw heaven opened, and a certain vessel descending unto him, as it had been a great sheet knit at the four corners, and let down to the earth, wherein were all manner of four-footed beasts of the earth, and wild beasts, and creeping things, and fowls of the air. And there came a voice to him, Rise, Peter, kill and eat. But Peter said, Not so, Lord, for I have never eaten anything that is common or unclean. And the voice spake unto him again the second time, What God hath cleansed, that call not thou common. This was done thrice, and the vessel was received up again into heaven. So that is the chapter and verse that people normally use to justify eating anything. That the dietary laws that were in the Old Testament, given in the Old Testament by Moses, they use that to say that they are done away with. They're saying here that God is saying to mankind that everything can be eaten. But what I want to point out is that God described certain foods as abominations. And once an abomination, always an abomination. An abomination is so bad. There are other abominations, like for example, incest, worshiping idols. These abominations, sexual deviancy, these things are abominations. Child sacrifice and abominations to God. These things are also listed alongside, eating unclean things as abominations. So people are saying that in the New Testament, that with this event, that God was telling all of us that it's okay now to eat abominable things. But if you look carefully at what happened though, Peter did not after this say to the church, oh, it's okay now to eat snakes and lobster and shrimps, snails, anything you want to eat. Matter of fact, Peter used it, he saw it for what it was. What God was trying to say to him was, the Gentiles who God did not deal with outside of, Abraham's descendants. He did not, he didn't have a league with the Gentiles. Gentiles are in fact abominable. The things that the Gentiles did, like for example, the people that got cast out of the promised land, all the ites, the Amorites, Hittites, Perizzites, all these people that got cast out, the things we're doing, we're not limited to these people. People all over the world practice these things in every culture. Okay? And in Western culture today, they practice these things that God find abominable. Homosexuality, for example. So God is saying to Peter with this vision, as Peter said, okay, he saw it as God saying to him, that the Gentiles should receive the gospel. Peter did not go and say, okay, well, great, God is saying that everything, we can eat everything now. So there's no place in the Bible where Peter says that the vision was saying eat everything, right? So I don't see how today that we come to that conclusion that God is saying eat everything. It was just God using abominable creatures to represent people who need help, who need salvation. Okay, it was not a changing of the dietary laws, because at the time, the Jews did not mix with the Gentiles. The Jews saw them, as just, can't be saved, unsalvageable, just, outside of God's reach. God just don't want to deal with these people. The Jews and the Gentiles did not, for example, they wouldn't sit and eat together. Okay? That's so much that, they were separate. They were abominable to to the Jews, and also some, remember the story of with Pharaoh, with Joseph, and when Joseph brought his family down to Egypt, the Egyptians did not, shepherds were an abomination to the Egyptians, so they were separate. I guess to each of them they're abominable. So God is just using an extreme. God did not say, to Peter, okay, go ahead and tell the church, to eat these things now. He brought that to Peter alone, right? And it had nothing to do with diet, and Peter understood that. So it is not for us to eat anything we want to eat. A pig is still a pig. A pig did not change his diet from the time when Peter received this vision. Snails still give you brain worms that will kill you. Shrimps did not change their diet. The catfish still eats garbage from the bottom of the ponds or lakes that they swim in. So abominable creatures are still abominable. They're still abominable. They're still not good for your diet. When Paul said that all meats are good to eat, I'm sure Paul was talking about in the context of what's given, what God gives us to eat. Okay? So an abomination is still an abomination and will always be an abomination to God. So be mindful of that, and look to the Old Testament and see what God tells us that we are to eat, and eat those things. Everything outside of that is bad for you, really, really bad for you. So thank you very much, and have a very good night. God bless.